Good morning, everyone. In just a second here, we'll go ahead and get started. You are here for the support level of learning path. So today we're going to be discussing all things support. We're going to be walking through the application as if you were a user of Recurly, specifically using Recurly for support purposes. So I see we've got a couple folks with us already. We've got a couple more on our registration book. So we'll give folks just another 30 seconds or so to join us. And in the meantime here, I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen and we'll kick things off. Okay, it looks like I can confirm that everyone is seeing my screen. You should see the PowerPoint loaded up here. And again, welcome everyone to Recurly. This is typically a seminar or a webinar rather for new users of Recurly. We've got 4 different paths. So today, obviously, we're talking about support. Later today, we have the decision maker path. And then next week, we have analytics as well as implementation and integration. So kind of 4 types of personas that typically use Recurly. And this is meant to help you get a jump start on how you are going to eventually, master Recurly. Obviously, we all start with new companies and, they have their own suite of software. Recurly might be part of that tech stack. So we want to help you reduce that time it takes to learn the software here. And for support agents, that's incredibly useful because you're probably already engaging with your customers. They have questions about their billing, pausing, refunding, canceling, postponing subscriptions, whatever it might be. It typically happens here in Recurly. So let's go ahead and get started here. So our agenda today, and I promise I won't keep you past the half hour here, and we're going to go through some introductions, and then we're going to largely just jump into app.recurly.com. So my name is Alex Kroll. I'm a customer operations specialist here at Recurly. I'm someone that's considered a customer advocate, right? I like to consider myself someone that has product knowledge, although Recurly is a complex tool, and we're always learning, right? But I like to share best practices with our merchants, make sure they're aware of the value Recurly can bring, and make sure they're getting the most out of the program as possible. So from here, we'll go ahead and transition over to Recurly. So I'm going to log into my account here. So as a support agent, this is how you're going to log into your account, okay? So the URL here is app.recurly.com/login. Everyone's going to see the same page here. You're going to have your login box, which includes your email and your password. So if that's not set up already, make sure you work with your manager or whoever's managing your Recurly instance to get you login credentials. So we're going to go ahead and log in. Now, this is a sandbox account, and what that means is that any changes made here are not permanent, right? They're just specific to this sandbox account. Typically, when a company signs up with Recurly, they create a sandbox account while they're evaluating the tool, and then eventually they have a production account where actual transactions are processed. So it's important to know the difference of those 2 items. So within our account here, whether it's sandbox or a production account, it's generally going to look the same. On the left side here, you have your navigation bar. This is where you locate all the different items of Recurly, whether it's the customer dropdown, analytics, configuration, integration, and admin. Now, as a support user, you're probably only seeing customers, maybe analytics, maybe configuration, right? You're not going to have admin access to the console. That's why today we're going to be walking through specifically the customer's dropdown. So let's take a look at accounts here. So accounts are kind of the source of truth of what happens in Recurly. So let's back up just a second. So your company probably sells, goods and services that, are hosted on Recurly, whether it's maybe a box of the month, maybe a book club subscription, maybe you sell seats to a software, whatever it might be, your goods and services are sold through Recurly, and therefore anyone that signs up for them is located in the Recurly database. And that's what an account is. So you can see I've got a couple different example accounts here. I've got example use and then Alex Apple. So accounts can be named whatever you'd like them to be. And they occur right here on the account level. You can create a new account manually, but typically if you already have your goods and services set up, your checkout page configured, and your customers are signing up. Whenever they sign up for whatever you're offering, they're going to show up right here under the accounts dropdown. So let's open up an example account here. So we'll open up the name example plan, I'm sorry, example use. Okay, so that's the customer name. Now we're going to get an entire snapshot of the account. As I mentioned, this is kind of the source of truth for finding out information about a particular account. So you can see the subscription that they're subscribed to. You can see any charges and credits, invoices, transactions, coupon redemptions, and then activities in the account. So if you made a change, the activity log will catch it. The customer makes a change, they cancel their subscription, they change their subscription, maybe they purchase more items. All of that takes place in the activity history. Now on the right side here, we have just as important information. We've got account information. So what is the account code? What is the company? What is the email? So a lot of really good verification elements here. So if you're chatting with a customer, maybe you're on the phone with them, maybe you have a required verification process. Excuse me, sir, can you please provide me your email address? Excuse me, ma'am, can you let me know the last 4 of your credit card that you have on file? So a bunch of good verification details over here on the right side. Now, some more in-depth stuff here is fraud check limits. So if you are using some of Recurly's fraud, anti-fraud software, you'll be able to see some of that information here, get an idea if the account has been marked as fraudulent. And then account notes. So if you want to come in here and add any kind of manual notes, hey, I had a call with Alex today. He asked to cancel a subscription. We went ahead and paused it instead. So that's a great place for some account notes. And then down here in the bottom right, you also have the option to close the account, okay? So now let's walk through all of the, kind of bread and butter type options within a subscription. So I'm talking about canceling, pausing, postponing, and refunding subscriptions. So let's go through and add a subscription to this account. So we're gonna click Add Subscription. When we do so, you'll see a drop down of all the different plans that we offer. This is a very basic instance, so I only have one plan. It's $100 a month. So I grab the plan, okay? I've got my billing period, everything auto fills here. Now, if you're working with an enterprise level customer, maybe you have a sales team that has negotiated terms with this subscription, you can change the price per billing period. So let's say for this customer, we're providing a discount. It's gonna be $90 a billing period. You can absolutely override that process. Now, did the customer want to have an add-on? So add-ons are your one-time charges that your company provides during checkout. So in this case, I have an example donation. Maybe this customer does want to donate. The price is $20, the quantity is 1. Let's say the customer wanted to give 2 at $20. That's absolutely fine, we can do that. If there's a shipping address required, we can add that in. At this time, not necessary. And then what's the timing? Do we want to start the subscription immediately, on a future date? What's our term? So do we want to edit the number of billing periods? Okay. Come down here to the bottom. You have another really important element here. So do you want the invoicing to be automatic or do you want it to be manual? Automatic means that we're just going to draw the funds from the credit card on file. It's going to be recurring. So we're just going to take that money out every time the subscription renews. Or do you want the process to be manual? Do you want to provide net terms? Is this invoice due in 30 days? Is it due in 45 days? So obviously there are specific use cases. Your company, is going to be unique in that element, but automatic typically is used for your, standard customers that sign up with you. They use credit card, and then they want that credit card to be used for their renewals. Manual, most of the time I see this in action is for our enterprise level customers, folks that are negotiating with our sales team, typically your bigger customers that, have an accounts payable team that will send either a check or a direct debit transfer after the invoice is issued. So we'll leave this guy at automatic. We'll go ahead and add the subscription. Whoops, we already have a subscription to this plan. Apologies, user error here. You can blame me. Let's go ahead and just remove the previous subscription. Okay, and we'll open example use back up and we're going to add that subscription. So it's going to be the example plan. We had it at $90. We had our donation at 40. Everything else looks good. We're going to go ahead and add the subscription. Okay, so now we're back in example uses account level dashboard. We can see confirmation that the subscription was added. We can even see the details about the subscription here. Okay, we're subscribed to the example plan. We've got our charges. Okay, so we had our donation right here. We had our example plan right here, and they're on the same invoice, right? So our invoice should be $130. Looks like everything is good. We can see transactions here. So again, this is a fake account. So I'm just trying, I'm charging transactions to a fake gateway. We were successful and we collected that $130 payment. So everything's good. Now, what happens if you need to make changes to that subscription? So our customer calls back in, they've got questions about the plan. We'll first load up the account here. We'll come into example plan, we'll click options, and then we'll click edit subscription. So here we can make some changes. So let's say we want to reverse that donation for some reason. We can go ahead and uncheck the add-on. Donation is removed. We can change the billing period going forward, etc. We can expire the subscription after this term. We can change our invoicing to manual. We can do many, many things just here from the subscription level. Now, one of our most common use cases here, so we're back in the account level under options, we can pause and cancel the subscription. So pausing is especially important, and this became a huge topic at the beginning of COVID, was should we provide some relief to our customers, right? So if a customer's calling in, they want to cancel, it may be part of your game plan to try to get them to just pause their subscription. So if we pause the subscription, it's very simple. We can do it based off of the number of billings cycles. So you're on a phone with the customer, you say, hey, maybe we can just pause your subscription until February 10th. So if I were to pause for one billing cycle here, we would be paused from January 10th to February 10th, and we would renew going forward in February. You can do that as long as you'd like. You can do 6 months, you can do a year, whatever it might be. It's very simple and just occurs right here for scheduling that pause. Now, the most famous option here is just canceling your subscription. Very straightforward. You're just going to click cancel subscription. You're going to receive a couple different options here. Do you want to terminate immediately, or do you want to cancel at the next bill date? So if we cancel at the next bill date, very straightforward, subscription remains active until the renewal date, okay? This one's particularly important. I used to work at a company, we would do exactly this. This provides the customer the option to continue to use all of their data, continue to export it all until the end of the billing cycle. We found that folks would prefer to keep their account open if they've already paid rather than receive a prorated refund. But if we were to select terminate immediately, we can then select the refund option. So do we want to prorate it? Do we just want to go ahead and execute a full refund, or just no refund at all? So in this case, let's execute a full refund. You'll get a confirmation of that information, and we'll just go ahead and terminate the subscription. Subscription expired. Now, based off of the configuration in your Recurly plan, your customer will receive a confirmation email. Typically, that email is enabled just so our customers have record of the subscription being canceled. I know it's a very common question for support agents. Okay, so let's head back to accounts. We're going to add a subscription back to this customer's account. And let's talk about one-time charges. So we briefly discussed this at the beginning here when we started talking about subscriptions, and the donation was an example of that. It's a one-time charge, right? We're checking out for your software, we're purchasing the subscription, and then maybe we want to purchase just a one-off item, okay? So if a customer calls in, they're chatting you on the support line and have a question about adding those one-time charges to their account, you can do that by first locating the account here, and then under charges and credits, go ahead and add an item or a charge. So this is going to pull from all of your different types of charges that you have configured in the account, and you can even create new ones. So if you're just responsible for creating the charge on your own, it's just going to be called an open amount. You're going to type in the description here, the amount, the codes, and then go ahead and preview the invoice and send out the invoice to the customer. The other option is to create a charge based off of an item that has already been created in Recurly. So if your company has already configured many different items that you sell, you can just search for them here. So this is where I can find the donations that I've already configured. Additionally, you can create a prepayment. So if your company takes a retainer, maybe your customers, an example use case of this is a law firm typically takes a retainer and then they draw from that retainer based off of work completed. So believe it or not, law firms do use Recurly, and the prepayment is considered like a retainer. And then as soon as an invoice is issued, it's issued against that retainer, right? So let's just go with an item here from item catalog. I'm going to select that donation. I've got the amount. Let's say our customer actually wanted to donate 15. We said that's okay. We'll change the amount. We'll go ahead and preview the invoice. Now again, you've got the option here to collect automatically or manually, okay? So you can see the use case for both. If it's a very large one-off item, in the hundreds or in the thousands, typically your customer might want to have their own terms. So maybe they want 30 days to go ahead and complete that order. In this case, $15, we're just going to call it automatic. We're going to post the invoice. And then Recurly will then begin the collection process on that invoice based off of the card information on file. So just a couple other things here on the account level that are important to note is billing info. We briefly touched on this, but it is likely you'll receive a call from a customer that says, I need to change my billing information. I don't know how to do that. You can do that manually just by locating the customer's account, going in here and clicking edit. You'll see all of that information, card information. If you collected bank information as a company, you'll see the option for that as well. So keep in mind that all occurs on the account level. So now I hope I'm not boring you with this presentation, but we've taken a pretty deep dive into accounts. So just remember, accounts are the source of truth. If we're ever having trouble locating a customer, always ask them for a possible name on the account, an email, an invoice number, whatever it might be. We can always find that information on the account level. You can also filter for your accounts here. So we can see active, renewing, future start date, in trial, paused, past due. These are great buckets for you to either manually check in on customers that might be past due, check in on customers that are in their trial, about to convert, whatever it might be. You've got many different buckets to execute those common actions. So now let's dive into the subtopics of each one of these. The first one being subscriptions. So we briefly went in here earlier when we looked at the particular plan we added to our customer's account. Subscriptions is going to show you all of the subscriptions in your account, whether they're active or not in trial or expired. Any subscription that's flowed through the system is going to live here under the subscriptions dropdown. So this is a great way for you to find types of plans, filter for types of plans, filter for date ranges when subscriptions started. So that's another common element for a support agent is, maybe we're having a really hard time finding this particular customer, and the last resort is, okay, sir, when did you sign up? Okay, maybe it was on October 10th. We can go ahead and filter for that date range. And the next thing you know, you find out it was one of his kids that signed up, right? It's a situation all of us support agents have been in. Invoices here, next stop. Invoices is particularly useful because customers oftentimes reference an invoice number. You can always find those invoices right here under invoices. You can search for the particular number. So you can see this first one here is 1006. So we type in 1006. We've located the invoice. We can go ahead and click into the invoice to learn more. So we can learn about who was billed, what was the amount billed, what are the line items, what is the terms on the invoice. And from here, we can also execute some common actions. So we can see our invoice actions up here in the top right. We can edit the invoice, we can issue a refund, and we can download it. So another use case, customer asks if he can get that, he or she can get that invoice again. Just come up here to the top right, download the PDF, send it over to the customer. Or on the left side here, go ahead and click resend last email. Now, if we want to go ahead and edit or issue refund, just click one of these as well. We can issue the refund on the spot. We can preview it and then add it to the account. So invoices is one of my favorite dashboards, particularly with these buckets on the left here. So if you are a support agent and you also double as the person responsible for following up on past due invoices to make sure they get collected, you can simply click into that bucket here, which is past due, and then begin going down the list, executing that manual outreach. You can even see your failed invoices. You can see your voided invoices, as well as your collection method. So if you begin to process manual invoices as well as automatic, you can filter between those as well. And last but certainly not least here is transactions. So this one's a little more in depth, but has its use cases as well. This is where we can see all transactions that have flowed through the Recurly dashboard. This is going to be for every single one of your customers, every single one of their invoices, even in the dunning process. So we'll see all the different times a card was tried. So we can see the type, if it was payment, if the status was successful or unsuccessful. Typically, if it's unsuccessful, we'll see it going through the dunning process, which is where we try to collect on that invoice. And then we can see the method, right? So we can see what type of card it is. We can also learn a little bit more about the transaction when we click into a payment. So we can learn a little bit more about the parameters on the transaction. We can see the fraud score, again, if you have your fraud elements enabled. And then we can see the invoice that it was related to. So you might see 5 or 6 transactions fail related to a particular invoice. You might be asking yourself, well, why did we try that invoice so many times if it kept failing? That's what we call the dunning process, right? Is we'd rather try to eventually collect payment on that invoice than let it fail, and work to get that customer to sign back up with us. So it's very important to be able to reference that invoice number. Once we reference the invoice, just go ahead and click View Invoice. Again, you'll be taken right back to Invoices, Invoice Actions, take care of whatever you need to do. So hopefully you can see now, kind of on the left side here, all 4 of these options, accounts, subscriptions, invoices, and transactions, are all related to each other. So kind of think of it as a family tree, right? Accounts is at the top, and then subscriptions, invoices, and transactions are the branches underneath that all interact with each other. Okay, so from the account level, you can find subscription information. From the subscription, you can find the invoice that it was related to. If you open up a transaction, you can find the invoice that transaction tried to process. So I know this was a lot, but Recurly also has many, many different resources. We have an entire support team of our own. So if you're ever kind of going through the motions with working with your customers and you just can't remember how to cancel a subscription or add a manual invoice, rest assured our team is happy to help. We've got a great 3-level team to make sure any questions get routed to the particular agent that will be best knowledgeable. And this can be found just by going to support.recurly.com. Okay, we also have a knowledge base of documentation. And let me just go ahead and load those up on our screen right now before we wrap up here. So support.recurly.com. This is going to be the best place. So this is, kind of the hub for finding everything related to Recurly. You'll notice also when you're in your Recurly account, you can chat our agents. We've got a chat built into the application. But here under support.recurly.com, you'll see product documentation, developer documentation, as well as the ability to create a support ticket. Down here at the bottom, you'll also see our knowledge base. This is where you can filter out specific categories and ask any questions, or get answers to any questions you might have related to those categories. Let's see here, anything else before we wrap up? I believe we covered everything. But just one more plug here to the Learning Path series. This is just one part of a 4-part series. So we might see some of you later today for the decision maker path. That one is going to be going over some top line information within Recurly, specifically recovered revenue, the Dunning process, just understanding what Recurly does to kind of stand out and help your company recover as much revenue as possible. So from here, I'll go ahead and let everyone have 4 minutes back. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me personally. My email is akroll@recurly.com, or feel free to reach out to our support team. I want to welcome you to Recurly. Thanks so much for being with us, and please feel free to reach out if any questions do come up. Thanks so much.